Social strategy. By now, you realize it. Web 2.0, social networks, everything is about the social web now. Social media has kind of changed the entire internet and has just changed everything. And when it comes to marketing and generating traffic for your site, of course, and also sales and new customers and everything that goes with it, in order to be completely effective with everything you do with your business online, you have to effectively incorporate some kind of social media strategy. So that's what this CD is all about. How do we take advantage of social media to drive traffic, to drive sales, to build our brands, to build and strengthen bonds and relationships with customers, and ultimately just to make more money in our business, because that's what the goal is. So how do we do it? How do we tap into all of these Web 2.0 things properly? And which ones are worth using and which ones are a waste of time? The one thing you'll notice, the consistency and the congruency of the methodology behind this course and behind what I teach and behind what I'm going to have you do anytime I ever tell you to take action on something, is the fact that I'm all about just doing what works and doing what's worth the time. When you hear of free traffic generation methods, free traffic or free advertising, nothing is really free. I'm sure you realize that by now. Everything has a cost associated with it. It may not be you happen to use a credit card to buy something, but it takes your time. And of course, your time is one of the most limited resources that you have, and therefore there is a cost. So there are 1,000,001 ways to try to drive traffic and sales from social media, but the majority of them aren't worth your time unless you value your time at less than probably $1 an hour. So what I'm going to talk to you about and suggest to you and build into the methodology of this course and build into the master plan that we'll get to at the very end to have you do on a regular basis is from my own testing results, as well as the results of students, colleagues, and people I mastermind with, and taking all the data and results and then just using a sound strategy to get ultimately what we want to get, and that's traffic and that's sales for something that makes a lot of sense, something that's efficient and is a good return on investment, time or with money that we spend. Obviously, social media marketing is growing very fast. The whole thing's growing. Every time you look online, there's a new social network or a new social news or bookmarking site or some new Web 2.0 service. It's just evolving, and it will continue to evolve. The good news is you can keep up with the resources section, and as new sites are created, new services are launched, and of course, new techniques are discovered even for some of the existing services. That's where you'll find some of the latest methods and techniques that you can tap into and that that you can go and use because they work. So you'll want to keep up with that over time. The weeks, months, and years to come, you'll want to keep up with that because it is changing quickly and it's going to continue to evolve. The most important thing that you have to understand, if I could kind of get any point through to you for this entire course, it's what I'm about to tell you, at least in how it relates to social media. So please pay very close attention to what I'm about to teach you. When it comes to social media marketing, 99%, or maybe more than that, maybe like 99 point something percent of marketers are using it wrong. They're using it incorrectly. Social media is not for advertising your products and services and websites. Let me repeat that. Social media is not for advertising your products, services, and website. If you try to use it as an advertising tool, you will fail. You also will potentially damage your brand and your reputation. So you must be thinking then, you're like, well, I don't get it. If it's not for advertising my products and services, why would I want to use it? Well, here's what social media really is and the purpose for it and how to use it effectively to generate traffic, sales, and business for you, which is the same goal of advertising your products and services. Social media is for building your brand, building relationships with people, allowing other people to discover you and your business and your products and services, to syndicate content that you publish on the internet, which then, of course, can drive people to the pages on your websites that sell things, but really to strengthen and grow a bond with potential prospects in your niche market and then make them more likely to buy from you. It's also used for publishing the content itself that you'll be creating. And so it's many different things. It's primarily a syndication and also a communications channel. Let me explain what I mean by that. Syndication is the process of you creating some kind of content or some kind of information and having it distributed, republished, reprinted, however you want to describe it, all across different points all over the internet. So, for example, if you make a blog post on your blog and you have a Facebook account and you have a plugin set up or a Facebook app set up to syndicate your blog posts, whenever you make a blog post on your blog, it automatically also gets made, or at least a snippet of it, in your Facebook profile. And I'm going to actually show you how all this happens and how it all works. That's syndication. It's the process of releasing content in one place, but having it automatically, or with a little bit of work, then distributed, shown, and published in different areas around the internet. I mean, we've talked about it, tons and tons of times now, how valuable content is to generating traffic and sales on the internet, and how content makes up the internet. And so it's incredibly powerful for you to have all these different syndication points. So any content that you create, you get this multiplied effect of value when it's published across the internet in different ways through different channels and at different syndication points. It's almost like having a cable TV network of sorts. Like you're publishing a show and it's getting distributed through all these different regional cable networks, and people maybe are even using these kind of Apple TV, Slingbox, Netflix boxes, all these, I think there's one called Roku, all these different devices now that can take content from TiVo, DVRs, cable networks, vice versa, and allow people to watch them online, and vice versa, online distributed content that can be watched on the TV. All that is converging together, and so syndication points are very powerful. It's like having that cable TV network or that multiple distribution network. You publish content, and you're going to get value from it. You're going to get traffic from it, hopefully sales from it, hopefully indexed in the search engines, hopefully shared by others because it's good, and that's what the core focus is of this course, is to create good content, because if you do that, you will naturally win on the internet. But then also to get people linking to it, and of course all the benefits that come from that. Traffic coming through the links, as well as the SEO benefits, which then can get you rankings, which then can get you traffic, so on and so forth. It's just a snowball process. But social media is best used to syndicate your content, as well as to communicate with an audience and to communicate through like distribution channels to get information and messages and some kind of communication in front of other people. But in doing so, in doing things to reach out to a group of people on, let's say, Facebook or another social network or through some other type of social site, in doing so, it's not so much that you're just sending out a message to tell them something, to promote and advertise something that you sell. Because the way social media works, it's literally like people coming over to your house to have dinner and sitting around at a dinner table. If you invite people to come over and have dinner, and as soon as they start eating, you start pitching Amway, or you start trying to sell them Tupperware, or you start trying to tell them how you started a new paper route and you're looking for affiliates for it, or you're looking for other people to expand on your paper route and you'll share the profits, that's just impolite. And it's also, and here's the kicker, it's not just that it's rude and it's going to upset those people. They may never come over to have dinner again. Here's the most important part. It's not effective. It's not going to work. It may work 1 out of 1,000 times, but the damage you do in using that model and trying to do that way it's just It's just not worth it. So going into social media and using social media and understanding that, it's a syndication and communications tool to have other points to syndicate and automatically replicate your content that you're creating, as well as to communicate with little herds and social groups of people to alert them that you've created some new content, or there's some breaking news you want them to know, or something about yourself. That's really the basis and the foundation for good social media marketing and use. So many marketers that are using it are just trying to throw up links to their site. It's funny, like they think just because they advertise on it, people will end up finding their site and it's just going to be worth doing. Well, it's not. So you have to realize that millions and millions of people are using social networks and these social services, and they're not business owners and marketers. The majority of people that make up social networks and these social media sites and services, the bookmarking services, the social news services, all the stuff we're going to cover in the CD, guess what? Those aren't business owners. Those are just people of society, people of sub-niches and groups and little subcultures that are sharing, voting on, and talking about information and content that's on the internet. So if you try to use it to pitch your stuff, you will fail. Let me repeat that. If you try to use social media to pitch your products and services, you will fail. But ironically, it doesn't mean you can't use it to get a ton of traffic and make a bunch of sales. You just have to understand how to do it properly. And that's what this CD is all about. So make no mistake about it. The people that are directly trying to advertise and promote their products and services are going to fail. They're just not going to do well. There's like one minor exception to the few people that are actually having some success selling using these tools. And it's just this incestuous cycle of, if you want to learn how to make money on Facebook, I'll show you how I did it. Here's my course. Well, the only way they made the money on Facebook is by selling something related to teach other people how to make money on Facebook. And because most of the people connected to that person also want to make money on Facebook, they're willing to go visit the site and buy the thing because it's related to the thing itself, which is just this incestuous cycle. But outside of that, for most people that you're going to encounter on many of these services that say, hey, I know the secrets of, I'm making money on this. I did $20,000 here or $10,000 there. The majority of what's being sold is simply this cycle of information about the same thing to get people that want to make money from the same thing. But ultimately, those techniques do not work if it's to actually sell something unrelated to the medium. So don't try, even if you're thinking of ideas of kind of selling, some kind of tutorial on how to use MySpace or something else and then use MySpace to it, I wouldn't even waste your time, because long term it's a short-lived strategy. You may make a few sales, but ultimately it's going to do more harm than good. The proper way really to go about it is just to deliver killer content for free through social media to reach your market, to then break through social circles of other people that will be exposed to it, and then their friends will be exposed to it, and then people they tell can be exposed to it either directly or indirectly, either actually through kind of word of mouth or the fact that they're interacting with your content online in these social media networks, and then their friends see it and then get exposed to it too, even if they didn't want to, or even if that person originally didn't intend to. And you're going to see how all this starts coming together. But it's mainly to be used for just putting out really good content. So any business owner or marketer that doesn't have good content to share is doomed to fail. And that's the foundation of this course. You can get all the traffic and sales that you want if you're willing to create good content for your market, which can translate then into traffic and sales. So be smart about it and use it properly, and it can actually be a gold mine for you and your business. There are several different segments of social media. We've got social networks like Facebook and MySpace and Bebo and High Five and Orkut and some of these other ones that you've heard of before. LinkedIn, there's all different types of social networks. Then the other type of social media that's kind of out there is content sharing. It's where people on the internet are sharing websites, funny videos, funny pictures, or just interesting pictures and videos, and all types of content and good blog posts and all that good stuff. They're finding it and discovering it for themselves, and then they're sharing it with others. And some of the sites that have the process of sharing, you get into voting and that kind of thing, which is like the Dig community or Reddit or Mix or Propeller, Yahoo Buzz, some of these other things that we're going to go over in the CD. So it's about networking with other people socially, like-minded people, having discussions, so on and so forth, and sharing content, even the social networks. And then the content sharing sites themselves, which is literally about, hey, look what I found on the internet. This is really cool. Check it out, which is the social bookmarking sites as well as the social news sites. And then you have the publishing part of it, where people are using social networks and some of the services and platforms that go with them to actually publish content. Syndicating content that's published elsewhere, like on a blog, but also to create new content or to publish content for the first time. A good example of this would be like Flickr. Flickr is a very, very popular, massively popular photo sharing site. It's kind of like a social network built in where people can comment on each other's photos and favorite each other and communicate with each other and build, groups of people they follow and photos that they follow and photographers that they follow, I should say. But really, it's a place to publish your photos. And that may be the only place that you publish them. You put them online, you upload them to your Flickr account. You don't do it like on your normal website, so it's not just syndicating it through Flickr. You're actually using Flickr. So that's a good example of actually publishing directly with one of those social services, social content services in this case. And of course, most of those then have abilities to syndicate elsewhere. Flickr is a great example. There's like a Flickr plugin, let's say, for Facebook. So once you set it up, anytime you upload a photo on Flickr, it automatically gets shown inside your Facebook account. You can put that on your blog, so it automatically shows little pictures that you've uploaded most recently. As soon as you do to Flickr, it'll show right there on your blog or anywhere else. So all of these things kind of work together, but that's pretty much how it breaks down. You can complicate social media and Web 2.0. What are they about? What are the titles to those pieces of content? How are those titles intriguing, or how does it strike interest in people? What do the masses on that site look to be interested in because they voted that up? And why did they do it? Was it just some late breaking news? Was it some controversial thing? Was it some amazing resource, a list of 50 killer web tools for X, topic? What was it? So if you just examine what's popular and what gets a lot of votes, that's a shortcut to emulate to possibly have similar success. So don't just try to create something completely new and think you're going to, create this amazing new concept that no one's ever done to try to get a lot of digs. Just look at what's already gotten a lot of digs and then try to find a way to make it apply to your business and what you're doing. The same thing goes with social bookmarking sites. When you read about or hear from others where they got a lot of traffic from social bookmarking, they got a lot of incoming links, they got a lot of people to visit, a lot of people to share it. What were the correlations that made that happen? What was that piece of content about? If it was a blog post, what did they write about? What did people say in the comments? How did it get bookmarked first? Who bookmarked it? Did they or did other people, or did they invite their list to do it? So if you want to have success with any of this stuff, tons of friends, tons of traffic and links from bookmarking sites, tons of people passing around something or voting on something you created, and getting it high exposure on these news sites, for example. Just look at the ones that already have been successful and do it too. It's just that simple. So don't forget that piggybacking applies to all this social media stuff. Last but not least, for this overview, this is incredibly valuable for you to understand. And I only know this from scientific proof and data from using these tools and working with these tools, as well as looking at the proven data and results from others that have done the same. There is a communications hierarchy for response and results, and ultimately to get traffic, that you need to understand. The top dog on the food chain is email. And what I mean by that is email marketing, like having an opt-in list where people give you their permission to email them. So with all things created equal, if you create a new blog post and you wanted to drive people to it, emailing a list that you have will create the greatest response and the most traffic. And the other thing about this hierarchy for response, if you fully examine it, it's kind of common sense. It has to do with the value and the intent, the attention that's committed to it for people that use these different types of communications elements. For example, email is checked more and is more important to internet users than anything else. We live and die, so to speak, with email as our main communication source. Most of us check email multiple times a day. That's how our friends and family typically contact us directly, or a customer has a question, or a potential partner contacts us. That's it. That's kind of the lowest common denominator of communication on the entire internet is email. And it's just a regular part of our lives, and it always will be, most likely. And so it's no surprise, or it should be no surprise to you, that email gets the best response. That when you send out announcements about something you just posted or something you're doing or whatever, you'll get the most traffic from doing it with email. Now, by now you should probably be seeing something in this little hierarchy. Maybe you're not. Notice how RSS is farther down on the list. And when you think of RSS, you probably think of blogs and blogging. And you're probably thinking, well, why do most bloggers just rely on RSS for people to, subscribe to a feed, to subscribe to their blog? How come most of them don't do email, like don't try to build an email list or don't have some kind of email component for notifying people that, they have a new blog post? Well, they don't realize it, but they're making a huge mistake. Now, RSS is important. I'm going to get to that and explain why, but it doesn't trump email. Email trumps everything. And so most bloggers on the internet, even the most popular blogs in the world, are just making a monumental error by not putting more focus into building email subscriptions for their blog readers and focusing on RSS. Because RSS isn't as important to people. It doesn't get the same attention to people as email. So it's just an important point I want to point out to you. And the reason why most bloggers don't know this is because they're not good marketers. I hate to say that, but many of them they don't know the nuances of internet marketing because they haven't been involved in other projects and other businesses when RSS wasn't even a part of the equation. And so most people just got, blog software. And of course, I don't mean to put down anyone. There's a lot of bloggers that are very, very successful, and they're doing great, and they do great work. So I don't mean to demean them in any way. But blog software, when it was created for blogging, wasn't created by marketers. It was just created by software engineers that saw a need to build a platform for content management, and then it was created. And RSS was this amazing technology, and it has some great uses, and you will definitely want to use it. I'm not saying not to. But in the process, email was incredibly overlooked because the fact that they just had no experience with email marketing. They don't realize how great the response is. So what I'm going to tell you right now, what you're going to start to see more and more as a trend is more and more bloggers focusing on building email subscriptions where people can get posts by email or updates by email, and not so much RSS. They'll promote both, but you're going to start to see more and more focus on email. And of course, if you have a blog, if you're doing anything where this is all going to tie together, you're going to want to have, an email form on your blog or on other pages, all connected to everything you do. Your main focus is going to be to get people to opt into an email list. That has the most value. That will be the most valuable asset that you'll build over time. It can grow virally on its own, but ultimately it represents the absolute most powerful and effective way to get traffic to go to your website and ultimately to get people to buy your products and services, and or for you to monetize the traffic when they come to your site if you make money in other ways like affiliate programs or through advertising or AdSense or anything else. So make no mistake, email is the number one king when it comes to driving people back to a site. And everything you need to do needs to have email strategy in mind. We're going to talk more about that in the CD a little bit, but keep that in mind. Next on this hierarchy for response, under email, so it's not as good as email, but it's kind of next in line, is Twitter. Twitter is relatively new. At the time of this recording, it's just over a year old. But I'm already seeing some tremendous response from it, and I've only been using it for a few months now. It's getting very, very popular, and this could change, by the way. That's why I want to keep up with the resources sections for this course, because these things can change quickly. But I think that this hierarchy is going to be pretty solid for a while, maybe for many, many years. Something new may come out and it may kind of break its way into this hierarchy, but at least for a while, I think this is going to be very, very solid. Twitter is, if you don't know what Twitter is, and we're going to go over that and kind of some techniques for that, is a microblogging platform. It's made where you can send a text message from a phone or from the web itself and make little posts that are a maximum of 140 characters. So it's a very, very short post. And the foundation of Twitter is based on the question of, what are you doing? And so it's you basically saying what you're currently doing, and then that gets posted and other people can see it. Why this is important and why it has become valuable and why people use it and put their attention into it is a very, very common and yet powerful part of human psychology. And what it comes down to is, the best way to describe it is kind of the fly on the wall syndrome. We all as human beings would love to be a fly on the wall and hear things or see things that maybe we shouldn't see, or at least that we normally wouldn't have access to. That's why naturally humans are voyeurs. They like to people watch, or, look and see what's going on here, and just observe. It's just in our nature. And Twitter allows people to kind of do that, because it's not so much only content that's being published in Twitter. It's pretty much just people kind of just saying what they're up to and, maybe where they're going, or if they're in a taxi cab somewhere. I was recently in Las Vegas, and I was just caught in this horrible traffic jam. And I just made a little quick post. I said, I'm currently in taxi hell. And it was funny. So I got like a bunch of replies and stuff. And so people like keeping up with people they're interested in and what their real lives are about, where they're at, what they're doing. And that's just the phenomenon behind Twitter. But what's great about Twitter also is that people are using it to link to other things on the internet. While they're going about their normal day and they're reading a certain blog post they like a lot, they can say, currently reading such and such, this is great, and then they link to it, and then others can click on the link, of course, and go check it out, and they appreciate it. And then, of course, if they have a blog, let's say, and if they make a blog post, it's a great way for them to Twitter and say, I just put up a new blog post. If you're interested, go check it out. So Twitter is becoming this important little communications medium. Some people, get into little personal conversations and can chat with each other, and there's a way to do it privately so most people don't see it, but a lot of the chatting that goes on is public, so people see other discussions and things, and it's very viral. When one person posts to someone, I'm going to show you all this and how this works, but when it happens, other people can be exposed to something related to someone else, even if they're not following them, as it's called, or their friend, and then they can always be one click away from checking that person out and what they're twittering about and talking about, and decide if they want to follow that person so they can start keeping up with all of their little messages in their main timeline. Again, I'm going to show you this, especially if you've never seen it. But it's very, very important. People are spending more time on Twitter. They're using it for these micro communication points, whether it's sharing about what they're up to personally or sharing things that they're finding on the internet that other people should find interesting, or posting about things that they're up to, their latest blog posts, their latest product specials, and so forth. Now, Twitter can certainly be used for marketing, but you really don't want to use it to heavily pitch things. If you came out with a product, you're releasing a product, or it went on sale or something, it'd be okay to mention it and link to it, but it needs to be a very, very low percentage of your overall communication. Like 1 out of 100 little, Twitter posts should really be promotional in nature, because you always have to remember this, by the way, when it comes to all of this social media, communication, everything. It always comes back to one thing, and always should come back to one principle. What's in it for them? What's in it for them? People, if they follow you on Twitter, it's not just for their health. They're not just doing it for kicks. They're doing it because they're interested in seeing what you're going to have to say. Well, if all you have to say is just a lot of personal, just kind of blabbering about, like, I'm currently making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm currently taking my dog for a walk. And none of it has to do with your business and kind of why they're connected to you socially, because ideally you're going to use it for some kind of marketing purposes for you. That's, why you're going to use it, generate traffic. You can use it for personal reasons too, but you want to be using this tool for marketing. That's what this is all about, and to generate traffic and sales and grow your business. Well, if someone's following you because they're in your target market and that's how you reach them and that's what the goal is, well, what's in it for them to follow you? If you're in the gardening industry and they're following you, and you're linking to the latest gardening news releases that you find on some other industry sites or blog posts that you like or post, well, that's why they're following you. That's the core reason. And so if you're just posting about personal stuff, although because of the fly on the wall concept, people like to keep up with the personal stuff. They like that element of transparency where they feel closer to you, and it's a stronger bond socially because they're giving you their attention to even see what you're saying at all. The real driving force is the value. What's in it for them? And that has to relate to what your business does and what you can do for them as far as the communication, goes. And so that's why all this stuff does relate to not selling, but giving, and, giving free content and giving free value related to your industry. And so you always want to keep that in mind when you're Twittering. It's easy, and I fall in the same trap. Sometimes I just get into personal stuff. I start jabbing away about how much I love the latest iPhone or Mac computer or some gadget, or just saw a great movie or something, and I have to stop myself, even because obviously I'm not perfect and I make mistakes all the time as well, and I have to think, hey, hold up there, John. This isn't really why people are following you and willing to listen to and and be exposed to your messages where it's adding to the noise of everything else that they have going on. Really why they're doing it is because of in my case, of internet marketing strategies and techniques and business information. So I have to keep that in mind and balance it with making sure to Twitter about that stuff. So keep that in mind. Down the little hierarchy, then we have RSS, where people can subscribe to your blog. They can have an RSS reader where they have a piece of software, and every time any of the blogs they're subscribed to, when they just push a button and say, I want to subscribe to the RSS feed, anytime the blogs are updated, the next time they open that software that manages all these little RSS subscriptions, they're going to see the latest blog post. So it's pushed to them. So you can think of it, I mean, just like magazine subscriptions. You go to your mailbox and the latest issues show up when they show up. Same thing. They use a piece of software to digitally manage all these different digital content channels. And whenever they're updated, the next time they look in that management software that they use for all their channels, they'll see the latest entry that got pushed out down the channel. So almost all blogs use this, and it's great because a lot of people like to read blogs with an RSS reader, not actually on the blog themselves, because sometimes it's easier and they can consume more information with these RSS readers. But RSS can also syndicate content. People can take an RSS feed, they can attach it to a web page, and they can set it up where your blog posts are automatically getting copied onto one of their web pages. And then, of course, that's just more exposure for you. And that, of course, happens all over the internet. And it's something you can do as well. If you need good content, you can find RSS feeds and companies that are giving permission to do this, which most do. And you can set it up, and so every time they post, it'll automatically update one of your web pages. It's a great way to get free content for some of your pages is by using RSS feeds and channels. And we'll link to more resources on all this, of course, in the resources section. So check there and stay up to date with that. And then last but not least down the food chain is Facebook and communicating through Facebook as far as getting a message out there or having your blog post syndicated or anything else syndicated through Facebook and through some of the communication you have in Facebook, and then how it can drive traffic to your website. So this hierarchy that I'm laying out for is all based on my data as well as data I've gotten from others, and it's pretty consistent. So when you spend equal time doing things, all things considered, this is how it falls in line for what will generate the most response. And again, it's kind of common sense, and I really don't mean to just, keep babbling and rambling on about this. I want you to understand this in case there are other tools or in case your business kind of goes along better with some other tool or some other service or some other network so you can understand it. Notice the hierarchy is in level of attention or attentive importance. Email's first because we check it the most and it's the most important to us. Twitter's becoming kind of the next best right now for response because people are using it more and more and they're looking to it a lot, and it's important to them because they're using it to kind of message people and communicate with people. So it's a way they keep in touch with people as well as their own followers and their own market. So it has that value. RSS, well, a lot of people use it to read blogs and keep up with different types of content as it's pushed out on the internet. It gets pushed to them. They don't necessarily, not a lot of people, they don't necessarily, open that every single day or every 3 hours to see, oh, what's the latest thing that's been pushed to me? They open it, read it whenever they feel like it. Well, Facebook, even though there's a lot of daily usage of it for some people, they're using it all the time, logging in all the time, they're not always visiting all their friends' different profiles where their friends are making updates. They're not always going and encountering all these other areas where their friends or people in their social network are actually communicating and adding information. And we're going to go over Facebook in detail and some different things that you can do, but that's why. So when you do the things on Facebook, that's why it doesn't generate as much response as those other three tools. It's still great to use and you need to use it. That's why it's in this course, but it's just not as effective, and you need to understand that. One thing to point out about Facebook is that you absolutely don't want to use, and this is going to really go against what some marketers are doing, but I really believe you don't want to use the kind of private messaging function of it. You don't on any social service. Email is the only exception. You don't want to use it to send messages to people about your stuff. Like if you make a blog post, or of course the big no-no, if you come out with some product that you're trying to drive people to the site to launch something or whatever, You don't want to mass send messages to like all your Facebook friends. Even if you have like a fan page thing set up, and we're going to go over that too, you really kind of don't want to just blast everybody with an email telling them about it. You can get away with it with some of the fan product-based stuff, kinda. I still don't recommend it, but I definitely don't recommend doing it to your friends. Like my friends on Facebook, they have people do it to me all the time, and they don't realize that, you know, they're very close to me, and and I do it to some people. I end up blocking them and kicking them off my list, and I don't want to hear any more from them because it's like spamming. It's abusive. It takes our time to go into that private message box and go through those messages and look at them. And the last thing we want to see are ads. You know, we don't want to see ads. It's just like, you know, in our email. Unless we've opted into a specific newsletter list, unless we're really wanting to hear from somebody, we don't want to see those messages. So the other thing you're going to notice about this CD is that I don't talk at all about MySpace and MySpace marketing. Now, why is that? Well, it's because it doesn't work. That's why. Any of these things I'm telling you about are things that work, and that's why I'm having you do them. The other things that I'm not really encouraging you to do either don't work at all or don't work enough where I think it's worth your time or some other negative benefit which may hurt your business. The thing about MySpace is this. Huge, very popular, arguably has a lot more traffic than Facebook, but it's a different type of site and service. Now, is it possible to generate traffic and sales and activity from MySpace? Yes, it is. Absolutely. There are many people that use MySpace to generate traffic to their websites. There are quite a few people that have made some good money marketing on MySpace. Not disputing that, not arguing with that. Here's the problem. MySpace, in order to be effective for using as a traffic generation source and method, it can only work if it appeals to a certain market. The majority of MySpace is used by a lot of younger demographics like kids or teenagers or some college students. And as people get older and older on the spectrum of age, the activity is lower and lower and lower. Facebook's a little different. Facebook, although it started for college students, has really blossomed into kind of a social network for everyone of all ages. And it's more professional, you'll notice. I mean, that's why it's booming in popularity and really making a run for MySpace as the top social network, is because it's just better in so many ways. It doesn't look like Times Square blinking and clacking and stuff like MySpace pages do with the autoplay music and so many of those pages that just look so unprofessional. It looks like marketing of the mid-'90s when people just had flashing stuff all over their pages and they didn't know how to market. Well, MySpace has just gotten polluted. There have been tools created to auto-add friends and to do all these different things and just to spam it and abuse it. And so it's almost worthless for marketing. If you're dealing with something in the entertainment industry, humor, kind of independent film stuff maybe, or definitely music and those types of things, MySpace then can be effective for you. But if you're in any other niche or any other industry, I suggest don't even waste your time. Don't even mess with setting up a profile and putting much. If you already have one, that's fine, but don't put much effort into really getting people to, friend you on MySpace and all that, because it's just, in my own experience, it's worthless. It's just not worth the time. Facebook, on the other hand, I find, at least right now, has some pretty good usage to it as far as marketing and response, has some pretty good effectiveness. Will it last? It's only a matter of time. It may get abused to the point where it becomes rendered useless as well. We'll see. So, of course, keep up with the resources section and, of course, the community element of Traffic Secrets to communicate with other Traffic Secrets owners like you. And so you can keep up with what's going on with that and anything else, of course. But we'll see. But right now, it's solid. I think you should definitely build a Facebook network and use it for marketing like we're going to talk about on this CD.